where the enemy has spoken lies, trying to convince us that you're not good. I pray you destroy those lies today, that the light of your truth would shine in, that we would see your goodness, your joy, your peace, that we would see that you're present in every moment, that you're good in the mountaintops, you're good in the valley, and you're good every step in between. That you're with us. You promised, I will be with you always to the very end. You put your spirit inside of us so that no matter what we face, you're right there with us. You give us peace that passes all understanding to guard our hearts and mind. You give us joy because the joy of the Lord is our strength. Man, we got so many things that we get to experience with your goodness. I pray we would not talk about, we would not just sing about your goodness, but today we would tangibly and in a real way experience your goodness in our hearts, in our minds, in our lives today, Father. We love you. We ask it all in your name. And everybody said, Amen. Amen. You can be seated. Man, oh man, have we got a full house today? Yes. I love it. This is the way it ought to be. One more reason why we need more seats, right? Come on. That's what I'm talking about. Listen, if you're here for the very first time, we want to take a moment to just welcome you as a guest. And so if you would just slip your hands up, we want to take a minute to connect with you, get a Connect card, because really we want to get a gift to you. Yeah, man, can we welcome our guests this morning? Wave them if you're new, man. They're coming around to you. The ushers are going to get to you. Here's what I want to encourage you. Take a moment during service, fill that card out. And then when service is over, you can go right out those doors to the right and turn it in. We got a free gift that we want to give to you because we're so excited for you to be here and be a part of a church service with us. If you're like, oh, I don't know, this one's kind of crowded. Man, look, we got an 8:30 and 11:30. There's a little bit more room. Maybe you want to try one of those sometime too. But we're just glad to have you. Because you're a guest this week, come back next week, your family. Amen? I mean, that's it. And so there's always more room for more people, and we're going to keep making room for more people. That's his plan. Man, I'm excited about today. Yes, it looks different. You're like, man, where did I show up? There's a couch and chairs on the table. Yeah, there is. Listen, sometimes different is good. Did you ever wonder why Jesus never seemed to heal somebody the same way twice? I think we want to put God in a box because we get comfortable when we can predict what he's going to do. Different is good. And so we're going to take a moment because today is Sanctity of Life. So we're going to have some conversations, and some ladies are going to share parts of their story. So if you have little kids here today that you don't want to hear this story, man, now is your chance. You got a couple minutes here to slip out if you don't want them to hear these things. But the reality is this is Sanctity of Life Sunday. And one thing that we will talk about is the fact that we believe in life. From the moment of conception, we will fight for life. We will fight for the life of that unborn child. We will fight for the life of women whose lives are impacted and affected when they choose to have an abortion. We will fight for life no matter what that life looks like, because that's what Jesus did. He fought for our life. And some people say, wait a minute, you can't talk about that. That's political. Maybe that's a lie. Somehow we bought the lie that because it lives in politics, the church can't talk about it. That's a lie. This is much deeper than political. This is the truth of who God is. And there are moments where the people of God got to use the voice that he's put inside of them through the Spirit of God to speak his life into a situation where the enemy is trying to bring death. Is it uncomfortable? Boy, it is at times. But is it what we're called to do? Absolutely. Why? Because darkness wins when light won't shine. And for far too long, the church has been quiet because we're not comfortable having this conversation. Well, I'm sorry. I'm past trying to be comfortable at this point in my life. And so, and we're going to fight with the truth of God and the grace of God together. And there's a way to do that. And so we're going to have a conversation today because we have an incredible ministry here called His Redeeming Love. And I want to invite Melissa and her ladies to come up on stage and join us. Yes, let's welcome them. And this morning we we just wanted to be able to have a conversation about this, where the church has been silent for so long. And you're saying, wait a minute, I thought you were supposed to preach a sermon. When did the idea that a sermon can only be preached by one person standing behind a pulpit from the stage? Got to get outside of the box. So we're going to get outside of the box and pray that through the testimonies of these women, through the stories they share, a message is going to be preached today. And that you're like, well, man, my life hasn't been impacted by that. Maybe not, but maybe you've got your own trauma. Maybe you've got your own lives, your own set of addictions that you're stuck in. And there's some truth spoken from their situation that may help set you free today too. That's what we're praying for. So Melissa, we talk about his redeeming love. We say things like HRL. Can you explain just a little bit about what his redeeming love is?
You bet. Thank you. Thank you all. His redeeming love is a post-abortion recovery ministry. So for anybody, women, I'm a woman, we teach to women. For the women who have experienced an abortion, this is an opportunity to get healing from that.
Yeah.
Now, you may be sitting out there thinking, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me. That's fine, we're going to get to that. But you may also be out there thinking, oh, I had one of those, but I'm fine. I assure you, every woman up here on stage and the ones you're going to see in a little while, every one of us said, we're fine. I'm good. It's good. It's in the past. It's not in the past. It's stuffed inside of you.
Yeah.
If you haven't gotten healing from our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, the depths of your soul, then this is why we have that.
Yeah, that's good. And so some of you, again, you're just like, man, how does this apply to me? Well, and if you've got something that you've experienced in your life and you say, man, that's in the past, but I'm past it, and you stuffed it down somewhere, hello? And maybe you're in a similar boat. And so here's what I want to do. Would you ladies take just a moment here and maybe introduce yourself? Tell us how long you've been a part of MCC. And then share with us maybe how long it's been as you went through his Redeeming Love ministry.
Hello. Good morning. Sorry. Yeah. I'm Shalon Snell. My husband and I have been coming to MCC for about 2.5 years now. I first got involved in the ministry about a year ago, but somebody tried to get me in there about almost 2 years ago. But, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
My name is Catherine Plant, and May will be 5 years that we've been here at this church. And I think it's been a little over 3 years that I've been a part of HRL.
Yeah.
My name is Stephanie Pace. The Lord brought me to MCC in 2018 when I was begging for healing. And this is the first place that he brought me to, and this is where I have stayed and done most of my healing. And it started with HRL, which I did in 2019.
I love that. I love that. So we're here today to talk about the abortion, that we're for life, but to talk about how we end up in a space. And so maybe if one of you, two of you would want to share, how did you end up in a space where you felt like the option, maybe the only option, was to choose abortion? Anybody want to? You want to? Okay.
So I grew up in a home that was very traditional. I was a Christian, and I was a practicing Christian. So just to debunk that whole thing that, Christians don't have abortions. Yeah. It's just unthinkable. But it is true. So I found myself, I was in my early 20s, and I thought I had no options. My option was to either have the baby and get married, or don't have the baby and continue what I thought was going to be my normal life. So that's kind of where I got stuck, and
That's great.
So we're in a different boat. I grew up as Jehovah's Witness, so most everything was not hell and damnation, but it was fear packed. I also grew up being molested the majority of my life. or childhood life. And then I had a stepfather who was physically abusive, and there was just, any type of abuse, it doesn't matter what it is. It just creates fear inside of you. So when I found out that I was pregnant, I was with someone who, would have supported me in not aborting his child, but I was too scared. My mindset was, why would I bring a baby into this world to be treated like I was? Because I was never taught boundaries. I was never taught, it was tried to be taught, but by then, those boundaries were completely gone. But I never learned unconditional love. So the lie that I believed was that I was being merciful. And that was on the first one. On the second one, because of my fear, again, is he going to leave me? Well, that was his words. It's either me or the baby. So I chose him, which did not turn out right either. So it was just you already done it once. What's this one? What's one more time? So you get trapped, and that's what I did. I got trapped in a path that was, well, just led me here.
Yeah.
Jason, I would add, fear is a liar.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a series of bad decisions that you end up getting pregnant when you're not trying to get pregnant, right? We said yes to things that we shouldn't have said yes to, because we all know that's how you get pregnant. So if you are faced with that situation, now where do you go? Who's going to give you the influence to tell you what you should or shouldn't do? So I think getting into this situation is a series of bad decisions. And then we're probably going to get into some of the details about why did you land on that?
Yeah. And I think this is an important piece of the conversation for us to hear these stories. Because I think for some of us, we think it's really simple. Just don't do it. But it's a much more complex decision than that, isn't it? When there's pressure at home that I'm a Christian and I've got to keep it all together. I got to present the right face. Pride takes root and causes us to do things to save face, to grow up in a situation where you're abused, and all of the confusion that comes on with trying to figure out how to navigate through that world. And this decision is much more complex than just don't do it. And if we're not willing to enter into this space and this place with women, then we're missing the opportunity to be the force that can change the tide behind this. And so we've got to step into this space, step into this place here that can be uncomfortable at times. So knowing different thoughts and spaces that have shaped your life, how did the voices of influence around you shape your decision to have an abortion? You want to? Okay.
I think part of what influenced me, I had just recently been divorced, started dating somebody, thought this guy was a really, really great guy, and he loved me, accepted me, got pregnant. I figured he would be happy about it. Nope. Was basically told it's either me or it's the baby. He paid for it, dropped me off, left, picked me up when it was all done and over. Dealt with it, didn't deal with it, but tried to forget about it. 9 months later, put in the same situation with the same man. And again, was told me or the baby, and you can't keep allowing this to happen. Okay. So again, he dropped me off, paid for it, picked me up when it was all done. Carried on with life. Ended up moving to California, got involved with somebody that I had met on a website and thought this was an amazing person. He loved me, accepted me. Long story short, got pregnant. We were both very, very happy and excited about it. Both wanted this baby. Moved in together, and then this other side of him came out. very abusive, mentally, physically, sexually. So when that side came out, I tried to stay, couldn't do it. It got so bad. And one night I had to call a friend of mine and I said, this is the situation I'm in. I need help. And I was basically told by this friend that probably the only way I'm going to get out of it is if I have an abortion. That was a tough one. I wanted this baby so badly, and I knew that it was a girl. I already had a name and everything. And my friend took me, dropped me off, waited for me. I ended up going back to their house, and I stayed there for a couple of days, recuperating. I was 4 months along in this pregnancy, though, so the healing process was a little bit different than the first two. And 2 days later, went and got what little I could of my son and I, and got out of there, and I never turned back. And that one hit me harder. I wanted that little girl so badly. And but at the time, I thought I did what I had to do because I knew that I could not have this person in my life any longer. And to this day, I'm thankful for HRL because it has helped me get through the whole process, and it has been a godsend, and that's just a little bit of it.
I'd have to say there were a couple different factors that influenced my decision. First, definitely the pressure to rectify, I guess, the original sin of getting pregnant out of wedlock. And that was to get married, and that was going to make it better. And I did not want to marry that man. He was physically violent, on top of verbally violent towards me. And on top of that, two other factors was my ignorance. I did not know anything about being pregnant, the gestational period, like what does a baby look like when it's inside of you. That in itself would have probably changed my mind. And the other aspect was just what you learn in school. I had a choice. I was a woman. I can be whatever I want to be, and this baby doesn't have to set you back. And somehow the lie that you're going to be, everything's going to go back to normal the second you have an abortion, and it doesn't. When you get pregnant as a woman, you're changed. You're either going to change and be a mother, or you're going to change and be traumatized because you didn't allow yourself to be what you now had become. And, it was a lot of influence.
So, besides all the influence in my own head and the chaos and the lies, the people, good people that I chose to go to for support, they supported me. They gave me the answers that I needed to hear to do what I did. It was still my choice to listen, but again, I had already decided in my own mind what was the best thing for me to do and show my first child mercy. Lie. The Lord has revealed to me that Satan thrives in ignorance. And when you're that young, you see all your grandparents going, I just don't understand what they're doing. We just think that we know everything, but it is, even at that time in my life, I was already so jaded. I wore the mask. I wore that mask for 52 years. Actually, no, since HRL. When the Lord started dealing with me in my ignorance, the choices I made in my ignorance, not what people have done to me, but his redemption came when I finally put that down at the cross. Again, did not know that was going to happen. I did not see it coming. until some sisters were courageous enough to stand up at a retreat, a women's retreat, and they told their story, and the Lord looked at me and said, it's time. And as I look back over that, I have very skewed memories from the trauma. I look back at all of the physical aspects. I've been to so many therapists. They knew me. All of them knew me. And they all said, you are fine. But I was so dark inside behind the mask when I was alone at night and when I was in the middle of a crowd. It didn't matter because of the choices that I made and the lies that I listened to and the encouragement from people that I respected in my carnal decision. So that was my influences.
Yeah. Jason, I would add, we each come from different backgrounds. So it doesn't matter if you come from a Christian home or if you come from a home that never spoke the name of the Lord. We find that 90% of abortions would not happen if the father had stood up and said, we will have this child. I will support this. This is life. We don't have those conversations. So for all you parents out there raising young men, raise men. Teach them. It's not just on them. It took two, right? And by the way, for all of the men in the room who participated in an abortion, we are praying for you. This was your loss also. No woman got pregnant on her own. And we don't want you to be silent. We want you to come forward. We want to have this class for you too. But for the influences, that's a big one. For me, I was 18, a freshman in college, and when I was in high school, having a great spirit of rebellion from Satan, not founded on the Lord in our home, though we would have said we're Christian, we would check that box, but my parents didn't even go to church on Christmas and Easter. They weren't even Creasters. But my dad said, you're going to get pregnant and drop out of college. So there I was, a freshman in college and pregnant. You think I called him? I didn't call my mom. The only voice that spoke to me was the Father. And he asked me, what do you want to do? That was it. I didn't call a friend. Who would call a friend? The shame. And it is shameful. We shouldn't have gotten there. But once you're there, right, trauma happens. We live in a fallen, broken world. And if we don't have the Lord, these things will continue to happen. That's why we want to speak out about it.
And to me, that's why we can't underestimate the power of influence that each one of us have. Because as you hear these stories, what influenced them towards the decision to have an abortion? The voices that were speaking into their life or had spoken in their life at some point that were shaping their thought patterns and the things they believed. What were the things that began to lead toward healing? The voices of a woman at a women's retreat standing up and sharing her story. It's those same voices that have the power to heal. And so we have to share. We have to have these conversations. We have to talk about the reality of what it is and the hope that comes through Christ, because we have a chance to make an influence and a difference and change the tide. I do believe that with all of my heart. So having been down that road, having that experience, what were some things that you experienced after the abortion that maybe you didn't expect or they didn't prepare you for?
I would say there's so much. When you have trauma in your life, and I know we're focused on abortion, but when you have trauma in your life and you go through something, a woman makes a choice to make a decision in an abortion. You may have a trauma that you didn't choose. Regardless, what do? You have to go on to the next day, so you just stuff it down, set it aside. I mean, it's just in there somewhere. But we push it down, and that creates an emotional imbalance in any human being.
Yep.
So right off the bat, you ever work with somebody who's super edgy? Like they get set off at the smallest thing? They got stuff inside.
Yeah.
So for me, what nobody told me was I was going to be, well, I was super driven, but when things didn't go my way, I was not somebody any of us wanted to be around, including myself. There are words for that. We won't use them because they're not right. We shouldn't use those words. But they don't tell you that you're not going to be emotionally sound. They don't tell you you can't be the mother that God made you to be and how you were designed to be because you're carrying this stuff inside. They don't tell you that you can't be the loving wife that you want to be because of what you have inside. They don't tell you the impacts.
Yeah. Anybody else want to?
I know going through my situation, after all my 3 abortions, I had something, I thought I was going on with life, but then things always went wrong. I would get in one abusive relationship after another. It could be physically, sexually, whatever it was. I found myself going down this same path, the same people I kept running across. I constantly blamed others. I constantly craved attention. I wanted everybody to love me, and I did what I had to do to love me. It could be sleeping with people. It could be doing things I knew wasn't right, but I still did them because I thought people loved me for doing that. That's when they seemed to like me more. But there was a pain that was in there for so long. About 1.5 years ago, I was sitting right over here, and I can't remember exactly what the service was, but I busted into tears. I've never seen Melissa, never met her. All of a sudden, she came across my path, and right in the middle of that, right down that hallway, whatever, she took a hold of me in her arms. I just uncontrollable crying, and she prayed for me, not knowing my situation, not knowing who I was. At that moment, I knew, you know what, Shalon, you have got to, and that's also when I found out about the ministry. I will say it took me several tries for her to get me into it. I finally decided, I think she pretty much told me, February last year, you have to do this. You have got to get into this. And trust me, Satan fought it every step of the way. He's like, you're not going to do this. I finally got there, and the moment I walked in, from what I was told, I walked down, didn't want to be there, looked like I didn't want to be there, didn't care, head held down, just kind of. But the minute I walked out, we walked away from that weekend, like they said, I was a whole new person. Shoulders up, head up, chin up, smile on my face, looked like a whole other person. And from last year till now, I still feel like a whole other person. Satan's still trying to get me down, you betcha. But I know that I have several sisters through HRL that I know that I can go to at any time.
I think definitely, without a doubt, I did not understand what was about to happen to me after I had my abortion was that I was about to become a total control freak. Although I had control over my own actions, the situation felt out of control. And then the emotional dump afterwards was something I could not control. And so there was a moment I did surrender and rededicate my life to Christ, but because of my spiritual immaturity, I said to myself, that is never happening again. And any situation around that was never happening again. And so I lived my life like that. And being a helicopter mom and helicopter wife, and just having to control every situation to make sure I wasn't going to get that emotional trauma again.
And to me, this is why we have to have the conversation, because we're told, packaged up, that the abortion will solve all your problems. That's the pill that they offer for us to swallow, and they don't tell you the problems that it actually creates. the emotional baggage, the trauma, and everything that you end up carrying as you go through that process. And so the only way for us to begin to overcome this is to expose the truth where there are lies and have these real conversations with real people who have had these experiences. This isn't mine, it's theirs, because they've walked that road. And so we've got to talk about the reality of everything that it causes. And on top of that, I think this is a great moment to shift the tide here and say, man, this is the baggage. These are all the things that you came to the table with coming into HRL. Tell me the impact that HRL had on your life. How did it change you? I was going to say, you were like, last time, you were like, this is mine. So.
Oh, Lord, let me tell you, he has been so wonderful. And I have to say, again, it was Melissa whenever I found myself at the retreat and the Lord spoke to me. I didn't know anyone there. Just came to the church and was so excited. And I ended up at the bottom. They had a cross there where you would take in things that you have and you want to put at God's feet. You would take and write it down and put it on the cross. And you would leave it there, not pick it back up. You would leave it. And I told the last one, I was like, I love crying now. It means I feel. So when I went to the bottom of the cross, I was kneeling there, and I have never, they talk about in the Bible, I just started learning this weekend about wailing women. My heart had never been so broken in my entire life to realize what I had lost, and the Lord revealed to me in that moment of tears at the bottom of the cross that I had 2 daughters. And in that, I felt these warm arms reach around me. And I couldn't make out the face because my eyes were swollen shut. That's how bad it was. Well, when the call cleared, I looked over, and there was the most compassionate woman that the Lord had put right next to me to say, I'm with you. I love you, and I forgive you. And your daughters are so okay. And had I known then what I know now, oh, my word, I would have been an advocate right then and there. But in the process, that's when the HRL came into my line of sight in God's time. And my heart was ready to receive and wanted to just give it all to him. And along with everything else that went with it, because it gets all tangled up. That's chaos, that's Satan. And it was a struggle to get to the weekend, HRO weekend, but I didn't care. You tell me where to be because I was so ready to be done with this. And when I went through that weekend, not only did the Lord just, when you go through abuse and you go through the things in life that so many of us have, and I pray that you step forward and let the Lord just shine that light on you. Because living in that darkness and that shame is such a lonely place, and that is not what he built us for. But with the ministry, the Lord, I've been carrying all this, the things about my life and what had been done to me. I had been a victim. I martyred myself whenever I didn't get that attention. And that I needed to make me feel like I'm being loved, which was so jaded and skewed. It was just not unconditional love at all. So it was every day just trying to work through every day. And then when I finally came to the HRL, and I know I'm going over my time, but I really appreciate the touch, not encompassing, but the gentleness of the Lord to touch my heart just as Stephanie needed, not Catherine, not Shalon, but how Stephanie needed. That's how personal and how loving he is and how special I am to him. And I waited my whole life to feel that way. My whole life. By my own choices, I have allowed myself to just be sucked into the lies of Satan. And Lord never gave up on me. And I can look back now, and the people that even just preached from a pedestal that said, you did this and you did that. I get to actually look back and look at them with love and then remember the loving moments that I had with these same people. So, yeah.
That's such amazing testimony. Love you. HRL for me was 100% life-changing. And I was ready. Like, my life, I was ready. There was something, I could never get anything together. And I think what I want to make sure that part of my testimony is that my trauma was my abortion. Whatever your trauma is can be something different, but it's important. I found a Bible study that laid out God's word in a way that showed me how much God loved me. I had always just, sometimes you view God the way you view your father. So God to me was an authority over me, and he was over there, doing his thing, and I'm over here doing my thing. But when I realized how much he loved me and how personal that love is, going to the cross just for me, it changed my point of view. I was able to start seeing people through the eyes of Christ, seeing that I can love you even though you're maybe not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And it changed how I loved people. And it saved my marriage. Thank God. And it changed how I relate to my children. The anger and just that my quick temper, and it wasn't because I was Irish anymore. It was because I was angry. It's funny, but it's real.
Yep.
And I will never be thankful enough to my God for how much and how real and how true his love is.
Yes.
A few years ago, after I finally realized, I'd messed up so many times that just had kind of become my life and who I was and how people saw me. The moment that my children, as they got older, started distancing themselves from me was the moment that I needed to do something. I was losing my kids. They didn't want their mom. They didn't want to be around me. I was not the mother, the wife, the friend. I was not who I wanted to be and who I needed to be. It took me almost losing all 4 of my children to realize, Shalon, you need to get your butt up and you need to start doing something with your life and who you are. As a mother, I was an awful mother. That has been one of the hardest things I've had to deal with, was I was not the mother to my children that they needed and they deserved. And until I got myself together, I was never going to be that mother they needed and deserved, especially my 2 youngest daughters, who craved having their mother, but their mother had better things to do. Their mother was not a nice mother. So that's when I started picking myself up and said, get your butt up, Shalon, and you need to do this. If you ever want your kids in your life and you want your kids to love you the way that you deserve to be loved and to be the mother that they deserved, you got to do this. HRL, I started working on me, started making some changes, but when I showed up to HRL, I thank God for Melissa and for our Father every single day. Through this ministry, after I left that weekend, my 17-year-old daughter, thank you, the day I got back, I spoke to my husband. I got to tell my husband my life story and who I was. That's a whole other story, but not necessary right at this moment. The first of my children was my 17-year-old daughter that I had the conversation of who mom really was from when I was little all the way up until now. Even my abortion, she knows who her mom really is. My daughter was bawling. I have 3 other children that are not ready to hear it. Actually, one, we're having that conversation tomorrow.
Yes, Lord.
And I just pray for me. But knowing the person that I was, especially as a mother, that nature real, I would not be here today, and I would not have the love that I get from my children right now if I didn't do this weekend. And even as a wife and as an employee, as everything in my life, that's when things started to change. I got a good job. My kids are coming back into my life. I have some beautiful and amazing sisters in church family. But you know what? It took pulling myself out of it. And I will tell you, she forced it out of me. I walked out a whole other person. And I will tell you, you ladies, gentlemen, whatever you are going through, trust me, that there's resources. There are things that you can go through. Because trust me, I never thought it was possible. It's possible. And
I think, Jason, society says abortion is good. It's okay. It's great. Do it. But when we get to the other side of an abortion, there is a massive hemorrhaging wound inside of a mother, inside of a woman. We stuff it inside and we say we're fine. But everybody knows if you have a wound and you don't dress it and it doesn't get right, what does it do? Did anybody say it gets infected? It gets nasty. And if it's infected and it's nasty and you don't do anything about it, what happens? It gets worse. It grows in its nastiness. And that is what we get rid of through the Lord's healing, and in this case, from abortion in this Bible study. There is no description for the level of hurt and impact that abortion has. But equally is whatever your trauma, there's no description that measures up to what God can do. And what Jesus will do for you is what he's done for all of us. But you can't get it on your own. You got to go through him. And when you go through him, look, if you have an oozing wound inside of you, do you think you're attractive to the people around you? I mean, you could try to cover it, but it smells. Like, people can just sense like there's something bad over there. Light can't come out of you if you've got stuff inside. It just can't. So you are useless to the Lord if you think you're doing a good job of stuffing things inside. I give you his word, not mine. His. You're not. And if you want it, you're here in this room, or you're listening online, or you're watching it on a replay because you're seeking him. Let him heal you. Get that stuff out. Don't try to do it on your own. Do it through him. If it's not abortion, great. If it is abortion, run. Don't walk to us. But get help. Get rid of this stuff.
I think that'll preach. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. Do you see the commonality here, though? I don't want us to miss it. Something changes when, instead of trying to cover up our messes, we take them to Jesus. Something changes when, instead of trying to deal with it on our own, we find a group of other people that have been down a similar road, faced similar hurts, and found healing themselves, and didn't just keep it to themselves, but said, hey, I want this healing for somebody else. That's what the church does. That's what we're called to do. Man, I could keep this conversation going on a lot longer, but we got to find a way to land the plane. I get that. One last response. One of you guys can choose. Somebody's sitting out there right now that's carrying something inside of them that they've locked away, tucked away. Abortion, maybe it's a woman, maybe it's a man. You were part of that process and encouraged it. Now you carry all the baggage that comes with that. Maybe there's some other trauma in your life that you're harboring, and they're sitting out there right now. Why should they step out and ask for help? How could their life be different if they would step out and ask for help? One of you. Oops.
My advice for anybody that is, whatever it may be and what they're going through, as I learned on HRO weekend, you can be free from all that bondage that is holding you down. Those chains will be set free, but you have to step forward, and nobody can do it for you. Nobody. You have to want to do it for yourself. You are the only person that can do it. Once you get that strength and that bravery, trust me, you will think, why didn't I do this sooner?
Yes, trust him.
And him right there is why I'm sitting here now. And that can be you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't always look like this.
No. And you have all four of us, and we also have some people up front.
Yeah.
Any of you, no matter what it is, you have support, you have somebody you can go to. And trust me, give it all to him, because until you're ready, don't keep saying no. Start saying yes today.
That's good. That's good. Melissa, you want to leave us with any final last words?
I've said a lot. I just want to encourage you, if you're a parent and you drove your child to a clinic in your past. If you're a man and you drove a woman, a friend, a girlfriend, you may be a lady that drove a friend and influenced that decision. Look, whether you go to a Bible study or not, God heals. He wants your heart. He wants you to repent. He wants your heart. He wants to use you. And the word tells us by our testimony,
that's right,
by the blood of the Lamb. If we don't talk about this, we can't stop it from happening.
Yeah.
For all you young people, don't encourage your friends to do something stupid. If you yourself wouldn't drive down and kill a baby, don't tell them, well, it's up to you. Speak life into people, y'all. You have an opportunity. You're influencing whether you know it or not.
Yeah, that's good.
Use it.
Amen. Yeah.
Okay, so there is one thing the Lord just keeps putting on my heart, and that is, this seems really overwhelming. It can be very overwhelming. But the Lord doesn't call us to change everything about us today. What he asks us to do is take a step in faith.
There you go.
So,
That's good. Could we stand and give these ladies a big round of applause for being so courageous? Thank you guys so much for coming up here and sharing. Man, what an honor.
Thank you.
Man, I was praying about today's service, and the Lord just laid this reality on my heart. See, I think there's a lot of us that are in bondage and held captive to something. And until we shine the light on it and we're willing to get it into the light, it's really hard to deal with. And so somewhere we've got to acknowledge it. You know, in Luke 4, Jesus had a moment in the temple where he stood up in front of everybody and they handed him this scroll from Isaiah, and he rolled it out and he read these words. Because these words are really who he is and who he's called his church to be. He said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor. He has sent me to announce release, pardon, and forgiveness to the captives, and recovery of sight to the blind, to set free those who are oppressed, downtrodden, bruised, crushed by tragedy, and to proclaim the favorable year of the Lord, the day when salvation and the favor of God abound greatly. You want to know how you save those that are oppressed and in captivity? You don't wait for them to come to you, you go to them. You take a moment to introduce them to the one that can give them hope and set them free, and that's Jesus. That somewhere I don't want anybody, no matter what your story is, to leave here today believing a lie that's holding you captive. You were created by Christ to be set free. He has redeemed you and purchased your freedom. He holds the key today, and he wants to unlock those handcuffs and set you free. If we'll just bring it to him and lay it down at his feet and invite him into the process with us, I believe today he wants to set some people free. And so here's what I want to do. As we go into this moment of worship, our prayer team is going to be up here. Some of the ladies that have been a part of His Redeeming Love are going to be up here as well. The whole row of them. Yeah, man, could you guys stand, all of you that have been through that? I mean, what an incredible testimony. And as we go into this last song, this moment of worship, I want to challenge you to have one question in conversation with the Lord. And what is the lie I'm believing that's holding me captive? I'm not good enough. Nobody loves me. It's just the way I am. And there's so many lies the enemy gives us, and you're like, man, I'm good. I don't think you're as good as you think you are. And they proved today was that freedom happened when they were willing to come out of the darkness and step into the light. Man, I want to encourage you today as we go into this worship song, if that's you, man, and you just want somebody to pray with you because you're struggling with some things, come down and let the goodness of God begin to set you free, because that's what he's called us to do today, to set the captive free. Step out of the lie, come down, find some help today and experience the freedom he's got for you.